Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. Today, I'm here in Umina Beach at the Sentient Chilling, the center here. I'm doing a teaching here, so we are using the Sunday talk to be sufficed by the continuation teaching here today. So I suggest you all to stay present as if you are doing your karma body meditation. We won't be able to do actual karma body meditation in this session, but what I do is I will chant the sutra of recollecting the qualities of triple gem in Tibetan, which only takes a few minutes. During that, please stay very present in the meditation. You sit still, what I call you observable S. First S is stillness of your posture as well as your attention. Second S is sincere motivation. Third is serenity of your attention. And so with this still posture, sincere motivation, serene attention, and a simple technique of merely recollecting any qualities of triple gem, particularly the gem of the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha, about which I'm going to continue the teachings. So, but I'm going to first chant the sutra recollecting the triple gem in Tibetan. Usually, the sutra of recollecting the triple gem is chanted in Pali, Sanskrit, in whichever language, Namo Tassa Bhagavato, what it starts with. Pali version is slightly shorter, but this one is a little bit more comprehensive recollection of qualities, all the triple gem. So I'm going to chant that. Thank you.
Damje Jambala Janzalo and the Zanje Jamdende Denende Jenje Bada Jamba Yandaba Zobe Zanjere Bada Jauzo Demba Devara Jeba Jeden Jamba Jewandebe Kala Jawala Meba Ada Menanje Domba Sanje Jumden Dende Tijin Jeba Dene Sonamanda Ge Judumba Geve Zawana Chume Zaba Sabe Jamba Sonamanje Terenam Jeje Peje Zambo Namje Deba Senamje Medoy Jeba Joye Rembara Dumba Tana Mendumba Meba Debe Meba Namla Mambaraga Jerava Zije Menamba Donala Jewa Meba Semje Damje Jedumba Shanje Zamba Namje Ya Pabe Ganza Namje Jabo Yana Lendeve Chonje Don Rawa Namje Deb Yeje Bado Meba Baba Zamje Mejaba So Nambara Dab Ya Nyemba Guje Da Joy Meje Kuya Tsumba Meba and Deba Dage Maga Sodage nyewa magoba some ba da da mande dunga dale namba jowa pumba dale raudo namba jowa kamanam da mende ba jeje na damba diba nama shindo cheba yonzo dongwa dale namba jowa seba le jowa jowa le gawa Yije yonzo zoba deba dama jumba tada jumba zanje jumda ne namenji yije la neba nyangele deba la meneba Yanda ba nije tala neba semje damje la zibe zala juba de deda ne zanje chumden de namenje je yanda yanda ba anzo Tambe jene tomara gewa prado gewa tamara gewa te zambo tsenjo zambo manje ba yonzo zoba yonzo daba yonzo jawa jumden denje zombe chondo wa Yanda ba dongwa ne me ba deje ba me ba nye ba de ba de dongwa la den ye ba ke ba ne men je zo zo range re bra jao chum den den je zong be chen de wa la le bra den ba nge bra jo zo be jang je de ne bra je ba min den ba me je de ba dan den ba ye ba ye wa je ba Ti ba jembe gende ne le bra jo ba re bra jo ba jam bra jo ba tum bra jo ba dhamma java vasra jo ja java vasra jo ba Sanam je dharanam je je be je yang yang zo jong wa jem jembe ne zo jo ba kunde ya jembe ne zo jo wa jembo So those of you who just joined us, I've been chanting the sutra, recollecting the infinite qualities of the Triple Gem. I've been giving talks on the Sundays last 2 months, roughly, or a bit more, on the theme of understanding sentient beings. Sentient beings themselves don't understand each other. That's pretty obvious. So we don't understand even ourselves, let alone others. We misunderstand each other all the time, and we react as we understand and make it worse, make it worse. And that's the plight of sentient beings. The only one who knows the plight of sentient beings is the fully enlightened Buddha. So that's the theme of today's teaching here. It's very fitting because who understands sentient beings? You know, sometimes when you have a kindest person in your life, maybe they understand you a bit more than anyone else. Maybe they know your strength and weakness, but still they can only do only a little bit. But still, the deep down, the person themselves doesn't know, let alone the other person try to help those. Because sentient beings are so deluded in not knowing they are. The only one is the enlightened one. So here we are talking on the qualities of the Buddha gem, one who is the knower of the world. We just read a part where it says Buddha is the one who knows everything, you know. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. You know? Now we talk about how does Buddha's knowledge of the sentient beings benefit the very sentient beings. If we know somebody very well, we can do things that benefit them, doesn't it? And parents know a little bit about the children's need, and then they do things to benefit the children. Buddha is the parent of all sentient beings, as it will be echoed here in the reading of the sutra. So we are looking at the second part of the Buddha's quality, how he manifests in the world, and how his manifestation benefits sentient beings. That's the second one. And how he relates to all living beings, because he knows them so well. When we try to help somebody, we can't. We think this is what the other person needs. The other person is just shaking hands. What does he want me to do this for? We do not relate very well to each other. So this has two parts. The brief one, how the Buddha relates to sentient beings, and brief one, the extensive one, and how he teaches. Yeah. First is, to those who long with faith, he brings true joy. He's talking about the good fortune of among the sentient beings. How does the Buddha actually benefit? Is firstly by how he relates to beings, each of them, and those is that those people who longs with faith and find joy in meeting the Buddha or knowing the Buddha, they actually go towards the Buddha. Like here, you are all here present, zooming in, joining here in teachings, coming and traveling. Some of you drove up 2 hours to be here at the teachings. But Zoom people also took 2 hours to join in, perhaps, or 2 minutes to join in. Whatever you came to join, people who long with faith, because they find joy in having faith and turn to the Buddha, and then he therefore benefits them by initiating them. Something pulls them, like the magnet pulls the metal. Likewise, Buddha pulls those long with faith to the Buddha. Okay, how does he do that? It's like a person who wanted to walk toward the Buddha with the faith. They're like a person who get to know about a show. They want to go to the show. They want to see the artist. Buddha is the artist of all artists. He's the biggest rock star. Biggest rock star. I don't know what is rock, but it rocks people. Is it? That's what it means, rock. Yeah, it rocks people, Otherwise, people are pretty stagnant, When they know the Buddha, it rocks them from their stagnancy. They don't want to move from the wrong views. They want to the rigid fundamentalist view. As soon as they meet the Buddha, it rocks them, It moves them to tears, and it brings the good they have. They thought they ever lacked. They actually lacked. They all of a sudden discover they too have kindness. They too have compassion. And so this is what we're talking about. He brings true joy to those who long the Buddha, and causing them to be initiated, and that makes the person to sit still. To those who are restless, those who are arrogant become humble. Those who become angry become compassionate. Those who become resentment become forgiving. And all of the person becomes true joy. They find true joy by dropping anger, true joy by dropping laziness, and so on, but adopting the antithesis of it. So he brings true joy. This true joy is not the ordinary pleasure or happiness, skin deep pleasure. We're talking about, people talk happiness in Buddhism as a causes of happiness is Buddhism or something. No, this is not. True joy is where you really discover the Buddha. Now, as a result of that, they have this indescribable joy that is not comparable to any other. It is said that if the Buddha's joy that people find by meeting the Buddha were to be compared with light, it says, however bright you were, wait until the sun shines. What does that do? When the sunshine makes the light very ordinary, isn't it? Very ordinary. Likewise, people who find the true joy, discover Dharma, their other things, pleasure, height, joy, satisfaction, they all become like an ordinary light. Until when the sun of the Dharma, Buddha, shines in the people's life, it brings true joy. Previously, they have superficial happiness or pleasure or highs and things, but they quickly rise, quickly come down. But the true joy that people discover through discovering Buddha, that's because Buddha knows the sentient beings, what they lack and what they need. And what they have many want, they don't need any of these needs. They just need true joy that comes from walking towards the Buddha. And because why? Because the sun is so bright, it can reach deep down in the valleys and deep down in the caves. Its penetration is much deeper than ordinary light that's on the street light. Yeah. Likewise, Buddha's wisdom and compassion is so penetratively deep down that his knowledge cannot be overpowered. Buddha's knowledge is not comparable with any knowledge. The light that street light gives is only in that very, maybe a couple of meters on the right, couple of meters on the left. That's about it. But up the road, no, there's no light. The effect of light is not by the sun, where it's shining from. It just gives the light everywhere. Like that, the Buddha's knowledge is not comparable with any of the other people's knowledge. There's a sutra. It says that suppose somebody knows how deep an ocean is. Suppose the depth of ocean is 80,000 meters. And suppose the expanse of sea, he also knows the expanse of the ocean, not just the depth, You would think that's a great knowledge. Oh, the depth of ocean, how vast it is, how many it is diameter, and so on. And how the weight of the Mount Sumeru. Have you ever seen the weight of Mount Sumeru being listed anywhere? No. Even if the weight of Mount Sumeru is listed, still it's nothing in comparison to the wisdom of the Buddha. He would actually be able to list all the particles that is in sand of the Ganges, if you have enough zeros. More than 26 zeros is usually uncountable, but Buddha could list all the particles if it's necessary. So because of that, his knowledge cannot be overpowered. Because of when we say Buddha's knowledge cannot be overpowered, we're not talking about just the ordinary conceptual knowledge. We're not talking about knowledge of the matter. We're talking about knowledge of the consciousness, knowledge of the deluded consciousness, knowledge of how the deluded consciousness is a conditioned consciousness, and how the conditioned consciousness could be deconditioned. So therefore, Buddha's knowledge is indeed cannot be overpowered by anything. So this commentary you wouldn't believe how many pages he's got, and I'm not going to be able to read much more than that. This is Mipham's commentary. Mipham's commentary on the Sutra of Three Hips is the most comprehensive one. Somebody actually translated the book, so if you wanted the book that is available, called the Sutra of Three, Recollecting Quality of Triple Gem, and quite a notable Western scholar, Tibetologist, translated this commentary in English, so you can easily get it on not my website, but on Amazon. You can get that book, in which then he will give I haven't read the book translation myself, but I believe it should be relatively good. So now, and his strength cannot be challenged. Second is his strength cannot challenge. This strength is not physical strength. There are 10 powers of the Buddha. Usually those 10 powers are not the power of the physical strength. These are strength of the Buddha cannot be challenged by anybody. You wouldn't believe how many people like the Devadatta and Mahanama and many of Buddha's cousins engaged with him the physical martial art, how all of them are really special, super martial art. But when it comes to Buddha, they couldn't do anything, there's nothing challenged. So this is not referring to just physical strength, but the spiritual strength as well. So that's the brief version. Now to extensive version of that is that he is the teacher of all sentient beings. This is what made me to think that this fits well with the topic today. Sunday talk is understanding the sentient beings. The Buddha is the teacher of all sentient beings. How could anybody know better sentient beings than the Buddha? Because Buddha knows all sentient beings. People of all his time, 6 most prominent religious, I would say, teachers of contemporary teachers of India, they all thought they are better than Buddha. They all came to compete where Buddha didn't want to involve in competitions. But in the end, when they really came to compare, they all had no chance. And so Buddha knew Buddha could teach more than his teacher could teach. And Buddha knew more than all the six other teachers from various philosophical schools. They all could not teach anything. So Buddha is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is not just a teacher who teaches on a small subject. He's teacher of the way to the enlightenment, way to develop compassion and omniscience, wisdom. And so those who are stuck in the slumber of ignorance, he will dispel their ignorance. Those who are filled with a lot of animosity, anger, he will teach them how to get rid of their anger and don't blame the object of their anger. Objects of anger is projection of one who has enmity towards the person. Enemy does not exist independently from the enemy's side. Enemy is a projection of the one who has ill will and enmity in themselves. So until that was heard, most people thought they had an inherently existing enemy out there. So Buddha taught them how to overcome their own, teach them to find the noble path, to wake them from the sleep of ignorance, and free them, unchain them from the tight grip of the chain of hatred. Some people are seized in the chain of hatred. If they are chained or handcuffed with police, they think it should be released quickly. They'll try to get bailed out very quickly. But with the anger, they really committed to keep the chain going. And they don't want to resort the idea how to unchain that chain. But Buddha teaches them they are more chained by the anger than the chain of the authorities, than the chain of the parents or chain of the others. Some parents put the kids in their room. So Buddha teaches them how to release them from the chain of their anger and poor me and I and me and my kind of fixations. All the sentient beings are in the prison. He sees them how they got in there by their own misdeeds and activities. And Buddha, with infinite compassion and wisdom, slowly make them to see how they did get in there by their own unconscious doing. With great compassion, Buddha empowers them to see what they cannot see, know what they do not know, show what nobody can able to show, and then get them true liberation. Buddha does not rescue anybody by his own action. Buddha empowers them to see themselves. It's just like modern method of teaching. If your teacher doesn't feed you everything with spoon, then it's not really the teacher. Teacher gives the student to learn, use analysis and rational, and then learn to fix the puzzle. So Buddha enables them. The Buddha did not liberate Nanda. Buddha made Nanda to see what he wasn't seeing. And when Buddha made Nanda to see, therefore he's the teacher of all sentient beings. Sentient all sentient beings, not just those who are near and dear to him. Nanda was half brother. That's why you thought he was able to teach his half brother. I tell you, half brother is the hardest person to teach. Maybe next door neighbor might be easier to teach, but your neighbor, your own family members would not listen to you. The hardest person to teach was not only Nanda, but also Yashodhara. And his father, Shuddhodana, they were not easy to teach because they didn't see Buddha in the Buddha. They see a husband and a father in the Buddha. But he eventually even taught them to be tamed and corrected. So that's why he's the teacher of all sentient beings. Okay. If he's teacher, how does he teach us? That's the third one. How does he teach us? This is very important. He is the father of the Bodhisattva, So he's not just teacher in the local school or teacher in some local campus or like that, who can never finish teaching and get tired every day, No, he's the tireless teacher. He teaches the Bodhisattvas. Amazing. This is Bodhisattva, pretty enlightened. He's teacher of the Bodhisattvas. I don't know whether Bodhisattvas need to go to school. Yeah, he's the teacher of the Bodhisattvas. He's the father of the Bodhisattva. What is a father figure? Father. Father does three things, yeah. Firstly, he inseminate the would-be boy, would-be child. He has to be responsible for producing. Firstly, production, procreation of the son. The father first procreate the son. Likewise, Buddha first sow the seed of the Buddha nature, bodhicitta in everybody. Makes them reconceive the bodhicitta. Therefore, they can then germinate, isn't it? Firstly, sowing the seed. First, this father sows the seed of his would-be child. Then the child grows. He rears him. He raises him from small, little helpless infant to a towering figure, and almost like he's taller than the fathers, not just physically, but knowledge, skill, and let him fly. Like that, Buddha also deliberately sows the seed of bodhicitta in every sentient being, and then nurtures them to cultivate the bodhisattva's way of life, yeah, and then make them all full-fledged bodhisattvas. So that's why he's the father of bodhisattvas. Who knows bodhisattvas? Who knows what constitutes to become bodhisattvas? Only the enlightened one. Ordinary people which wish to aspire to become bodhisattva, they read the bodhisattva's way of life, they hear teaching, but they still haven't quite. But unless they took the bodhicitta vows, they will not be able to show this. They will not become bodhisattvas. So they have to become a child of the bodhisattvas by first taking their commitment to give rise to bodhicitta, and then maintain the bodhisattva's way of life by practicing the 6 perfections to ripen oneself, or persuasion to ripen, liberate other sentient beings. So in this way, the bodhisattva first sows the seed, then nurtures them, and then empowers them to like the bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, and all. So he's the father of all the bodhisattvas, like the great Moggallanaputra and Shariputra. They are both disciples of Buddha, but they are seen by others as a towering figure, arhat, When Shariputra came to Shravasti, when the Buddha sent at the request of Anathapindika, they thought he was the Buddha. They thought Shariputra was the Buddha, because Buddha has trained and raised this Brahmin's boy to become such a towering figure that people have good reason to mistake him for the Buddha. Why? Buddha has spiritually fathered Shariputra and Moggallanaputra, who was towering figure in their own religious tradition, but they were contented with their school and thoughts. They still weren't quite happy with the philosophy of that everything is created by Brahma. Come on, give me a break, I'm sure they were asking these questions, and until they met the Buddha, they were just so flat. They flat down. They couldn't grow. Still scratching the surface. They couldn't find any. They couldn't mine anything because they were in the wrong place. They didn't know where. They didn't find the right place to dig the soil to mine the thing. Until they met the Buddha, and Buddha just nurtured them. The Shariputra nearly got arhat just by hearing the Asvajit quote the Buddha. just merely quoting the Buddha saying by Asvajit, Shariputra got almost saw the truth. But he said, look, I'm not the Buddha. I'm just a disciple of the Buddha. My name is Asvajit. My teacher lives in the bamboo grove. You're going to come with me. And then, of course, Shariputra, as soon as he saw the Buddha, his ordinary clothes just dropped off automatically. He was automatically got donned with the robe, and he was cleanly shaven, including his beard and hair and everything. It looked like he was like a bhikkhu for 100 years. Instantly, instant noodle, instant arhathood was achieved by seeing this magical sight of the Buddha. Just by seeing the Buddha, Shariputra just instantly changed from ordinary seeker to the great arhat. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Likewise, everyone else who followed. So that's why he's the father of all sentient beings, and his father, he's teacher of all sentient beings, the father of all the bodhisattvas. He's the king of noble beings, yeah? So he's the king of noble beings. King of noble beings refers to king of noble, that whether they see the Buddha in person or whether they get affected by Buddha activity, all of them become somewhat changed. And those who haven't met the path, they meet the path. Those who haven't caught real progress on the path, they progress on the path. The lazy ones become diligent become super diligent, and everybody get changed. Everybody become changed because he's king. The king has power to issue a royal decree, and it happens. It's just like the law that pass on the land. Yeah, you can't meet anybody. You have to stay in the house for 1 week. Like that. Like kings got authority, got a lot of power. Like Buddha had so much authority. Buddha says they see the Buddha and things happen. It's so powerful. So people who never wanted to forgive themselves or never wanted to reconcile with the difference with others, as soon as Buddha they met, all the warring kingdoms came and met in Rajgriha, and not a single shot was fired, and they were all reconciled. All the dispute was settled just because the commanding holy presence of Buddha was such that they all decide to surrender violence and drop the fight over territorial dispute, and they all unanimously together built a stupa of reconciliation. So there are 8 stupas in Buddhist tradition, and the stupa of reconciliation is built in Rajgriha. Why? Because he was the king of all kings. His royal command was heeded to by all the warring parties who would not agree with each other and firing and killing each other. But once Buddha went in to Rajgriha and create a council of reconciliation, all the warring parties dropped their fight. And what did they do? They all heeded to the Buddha. And so this is what we're talking about. And he's the guide to those who journey to the city of Nirvana. Yeah, this is exactly. So those people who are seeking to reach Nirvana, every single person who follow the path, he is the guide. He is the incessant, tireless guide to help sentient beings to find the correct way to reach Nirvana. The Nirvana is a cessation of sorrow and its causes. So Buddha is the guide. He's the guide. So that concludes how he teaches. Now, how he teaches on the 3 different levels. He teaches sentient beings. He teaches through his mental activities, through his verbal activities, as well as physical activities. So the sutra therefore goes on. The next 2 lines is he possesses immeasurable wisdom. So this is his wisdom activity. His wisdom activity makes 2 sentient beings. To some, because wisdom activity is like now. This is wisdom activity, Buddha. His speech activities, those people have to read and hear his speech. His physical activity, they have to see the Buddha forms. Yeah. So the wisdom activities is far more superior than the other 2. So therefore, it is he possesses immeasurable wisdom. Immeasurable wisdom is he knows the 10 powers and 4 fearlessness. His knowledge of his wisdom is immeasurable. Of course, wisdom-wise, there are 5 wisdoms. When we talk about from the intrinsic nature of there are 5 wisdoms. When you talk about from the point of view of time, there are three wisdoms: past, present, future, knowing wisdoms. From the point of view of relative and ultimate, there are true wisdoms, relative wisdom, ultimate wisdom. So there's 5 wisdom, 2, 3 wisdom, true wisdom, and ultimate reality is self-realization, the one and only wisdom. So all of these wisdoms, he possesses this immeasurable wisdom. His immeasurable wisdom that he says he has is immeasurable. Immeasurable in the sense there is not a single place or one particular time, to all directions, to where in whichever location which is, his wisdom is relevant. When people hear the Dharma, it doesn't mean, can't relate to the teaching in the West. This is for the Easterners. No. Most people usually think, oh, this is what Orientalist, This is for the Oriental studies, they call it. But what the hell they do in Oriental studies in London? Why they open school in Oriental studies in London? In Oriental School of Oriental Studies in London actually has studied more about Asian studies. But all the consumers of Oriental studies are Occidentals, the people who live in the West. So that means the wisdom of Buddha is not partially to some people, it's universal truth. There's not a single place where the sun doesn't shine. It's like that. Buddha's wisdom is universal. And that's why it says that his wisdom possessed immeasurable wisdom without any bias to one side of the world, northern to the southern, western to the eastern. No. So whoever hears and knows the teachings of the Buddha, and they'll find the wisdom to be incredibly relevant and useful in every time and space. So therefore, what we're talking about, Buddha's wisdom is immeasurable and impartial. Why? He possesses inconceivable confidence. This refers to the Buddha's confidence. Buddha has every confidence how his teaching will be relevant to sentient beings. He teaches definitive meaning, he teaches interpreted meanings, he teaches one to this person, he teaches this one to another. So he may speak one words, but he is able to tailor the teaching to all levels. So all levels. Yeah, good sound, is it? Inaudible become audible now. Yeah. So Buddha teaches sentient beings his mental qualities. Yeah, his mental qualities. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. The Popasamyi Mechapa, we call it in Tibetan. That whoever is confident, Buddha will be able to match their confidence. There is not a single time that 100 people comes and 2 people get really inspired, 88 go home. There's no such thing. Everybody will get something that exactly what they need. That's the Buddha's confidence. Is the teaching is so tailored and appropriate to each and every sentient beings. How does he do that? Through his verbal activities. His speech is completely pure. So it means the speech of the Buddha is deprived of the ordinary speaker. Ordinary speak may have a repetitiveness and incoherent, and contradicting what he said before and then later, or maybe said, I can't be bothered, I'm too tired, I can't teach anymore. They become too lazy. Or they say, no, I can't, I didn't get ready for the thing. Can we delay for another week? This kind of thing. Buddha is never, he doesn't have any of those frailties and inconsistency. So there are usually all speakers have 8 pitfalls. 8 pitfalls for the teacher, and Buddha doesn't suffer to any of those 8 pitfalls. That's why his speech is completely pure. His verbal activity is completely pure, and his words are worthy of quoting. His words are written in gold. His words are carved on rocks, and not on those are just the physical symbols. But wait until you hear them. Well, those you hear from the Buddha's words, they remain completely imprinted on your consciousness. You could not forget those profound sayings. That's how Buddha's speech is completely pure, and his speech is melodious. His speech is music of music. You may think all the music, all the kind of consortium of musical instrument player, you say, wow, but wait until you hear the Buddha speech. If you hear the Buddha speech, it has the melody of all kinds. It's soft, it's gentle, it's penetrating, it's wise. It's like the water that has 8 qualities. Water that 8 qualities is soft, soothing, light, quenching thirst, and so on. Likewise, when the person hears the Dharma, it will cool the heat of temper, impatient become patient, and deluded become woken up, and discouraged people become encouraged. Also, the Buddha's speech is so melodious. The melody has a person who's a little sad And when he heard the music, then straight away he's tapping his shoulder, tapping his feet, he's moving, he forgot his worry, And the music has instant capability to wake people's spirit up. That's what people go to all these concerts, because they come home happy. That's just temporary, temporarily. And you can buy as a CD as well, so that helps. but with the Buddha's speech, you hear it once, the beat is always there in your heart, and you will always find yourself drawn to the true melody of the Dharma. Yeah, the Dharma is melodious. Melodious is not temporarily to please the sense auditory consciousness, not the temporary enjoyment. Ultimately, it bestows a power in the person. His melody, his style, his direction in life all change. It changes people as a result of hearing the Dharma, hearing and understanding the melodious qualities of the Dharma. Yeah, so that's this is the quality of Buddha's enlightened activities through speech. Third is the quality of Buddha's activity through his physical activities. One has never enough of seeing his form. Means seeing the Buddha is insatiable, insatiable, but because the single hair of the Buddha, or his manner of his hand movement, or his the palms, or his radiance of aura or his gentle gaze of his eyes with which he looks, all of this gives so much blessings. People just get so much. Like I usually liken the example of His Holiness Dalai Lama walks in a stadium, all these 80,000 people couldn't believe they're nearly up off the ground. They all get lifted up in this amazing state. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's His Holiness Dalai Lama in human form, But wait until you fully enlightened Buddha appears in a stadium. Just imagine what that would be like. It just lifts everybody almost in the air. They really are off the ground. They're all lifted in the spirit, because one never has enough seeing of his form. Yeah, it just gives so much pleasure. And that's why Buddha images are everywhere these days. I don't know who promote Buddha images. Everybody's making them. All these factories, even the communist factories, they're making Buddha images. They're sending all the Buddha images everywhere. In Bali, they make Buddha images for the garden, Buddha images for the whole house door. Only the head sometimes. Usually in Buddhist people never make just the Buddha head, but everybody has some Buddha figure in their home. You just go and look at it. You wouldn't find any home where there isn't a Buddha image. Maybe some places not for some reason, but it's so everywhere because they find something so soothingly blessed energy it gives. This is just a replica, Wait until you see the true Buddha, those who have. That's why the people like Shariputra, when they saw the Buddha, that's it. He didn't have to hear much. It just liberation through sight. There is no way to compare with anything you see. It's just a pure delight by seeing the Buddha. The person actually has a benefit of having eye when you have seen the Buddha. Until then, they have never seen so beautiful. So it's talking about. And then his body is incomparable. His body is incomparable, meaning the beauty of his bodily activities, whether it's from his single hair pores, that it is able to radiate light and loving kindness from one single hair to touch the sentient beings and tame them, soothe them, and transform them and change them in a totally different direction by the Buddha. And even the mad elephant, that Devadatta intoxicated the elephant, and the mad elephants on rampage is pretty dangerous. It doesn't have to be intoxicated. So Devadatta deliberately intoxicated a mad elephant and put these dangerous weapons on the trunk and let it go loose in the streets of Magadha, where everything was destroyed, and everybody was running for life, and there was no hope of being spared if you are in the way of the mad elephant. But when the Buddha came nearby, he just gently stretched like this towards hands. The elephant just completely become detoxified and just become so sober and lie on his 2 feet in a bay and drop the weapon and bow down to Buddha. So that's just an example of Buddha's incomparable activities. Even small piece of Buddha's sharira these days, Buddha's relic is there. It's kept in a huge temple in a tiny glass container, and millions are thronging to go to the annual unveiling of this. They're so happy they can just go and nearby there. Why? Because something magical happens when people see that. People are able to donate so much just to upkeep of the temple because they know there is Buddha relic there. So this kind of sharira, Buddha sharira, his body is incomparable. He continue to manifest the radiance of the Rupakaya. Yeah, Rupakaya. This is what we're talking about. So that concludes the how the Buddha manifests. Yeah, how the Buddha manifests and how he benefits, how he relates to sentient beings, both briefly and extensively through his wisdom activity, through his verbal activities, through physical activity. Now the second main part is how he accomplished himself. So those are the activities. How come Buddha has such power? It's because he is the embodiment of renunciation realization. So there are 2 qualities, the renunciation quality and his realization quality. So the renunciation quality comes first. The renunciation qualities of this renunciation part of the qualities is also subdivided into 2. That is unstained faults of existence and freedom from the worldly existence. First is unstained by the faults of existence, is mentioned in the next word. So means unstained by fault of existence. Existence, according to Buddhist cosmology, are 3: desire realm, form realm, and formless realm. Each of these 3 realms has their own particular stains, subtle to gross and very subtle. And the desire realm stains are very, very gross. So therefore it says he is unstained by the realm of desire. So this is talking about the sentient beings, human beings, and the desire realm gods are all stained by the attachment to the existence of wealth, comfort, status, convenience, beautiful towns and cities and nice living rooms, and all of these people are just infatuated with their homes, with their swimming pools, with their jacuzzis, with their cars, with their sports cars, with their office, with their new furnitures. They're all enchanted by the desires a kind of a entrapment. They're all there. So Buddha is not slightly attached or craving or wanting, needing any of these worldly pursuits, which most people think is important. For him, there's not a need of or lack of any of these. He's not stained by the pursuits of the desire realm sentient beings. He's totally transcended that. So he renounced all of that. He doesn't have any craving for that. He's realized complete contentment with the purity of discipline and Shila and Dhyana and wisdom. He has these 3, and therefore realm of desire could not pollute him. So that's the worldly desire realm. Then second is formless realm, form realm. He is unstained by realm of form. Then the realm of form means realm of form is quite a high meditative state. Form realm has a lot of worldly samadhis. They have a lot of amazing dhyanas. Quite a lot of practitioners reach to the jhanic experiences of almost comparable to those of the gods who live in the form realms. The form realm got 17 categories of form realm gods. Each of them has a much higher realm of jhana than the lower ones. So there's 17. of course, most of the form realm gods are completely satisfied. They think that's enlightenment. They don't think it's just the temporary jhana. They think that's enlightenment. They're totally mesmerized by that. But all of these worldly gains is not whatever the flavor of samadhi they have, jhanas and bliss and whatever, clairvoyance or knowing your past or whatever, all these things. They think that's amazing. But Buddha would not be enchanted by any of this. He's not tainted by such pursuit or wanting to gain some mystical experiences of others, and then they think that's enlightenment, because he sees them as merely temporarily form realm meditative flavors and experiences. And then the third highest is the formless realm. He's not mixed with the formless realm. So this is a little bit higher level. The formless realm gods experience a little bit higher realm, because most people actually confuse the formless realm samadhis is transcendental, because it does not depend on sight, sound, smell, and taste, because they don't have any forms. So it's not the sense object stimulated sense realm, a sort of desire or pleasure. There is no form. So it therefore is deeply meditative. The meditative, subtlemost meditative flavors of experiences. So Buddha is not even mixed, is not confusing with his enlightenment with such pleasure, spiritual ecstasy, bliss, you can call it, ecstasy, you call it, high, you can call it rapture, you can call it inconceivable, you can call it whatever you call it, the formless realm experiences. The Buddha's wisdom is not mixed with such a likelihood, such similar worldly experiences. So that is the first component of renunciation, unstained by the worldly existence of form, desire, formless realm. Then second is freedom from worldly existence. For second, freedom for worldly existence is the result in terms of the resultant suffering and causal true origin of the suffering. So these are two subdivisions. Now these subdivisions are very important when you think about the qualities. He is completely liberated from suffering. So this is referring to Buddha is completely liberated from any of the sufferings. So that's general statement. He's completely liberated from suffering is just brief, and then the detailed explanation. He's completely utterly liberated from the aggregate. So when we say liberated from suffering, how do you get liberated from suffering? We also interested to put So how is liberated from suffering? He's utterly liberated from aggregates. So he doesn't think his body is him or body is his. He doesn't think the body is self. Most of us, all the time, we think, I'm my body, We are so infatuated. We are so addicted to the body being me. And all of us, that is the cause of our suffering. See, that's the causal suffering. Our suffering is caused by thinking body is me. Thinking body is me, and you think it's becoming a little too thin or too big or too whatever. You think I don't like myself, and then they create their own suffering by thinking I'm too big or too small or too thin or too short or never right. If you're big, you think it's too big. If you're small, you're too small. It's not a perfect ideal size or shape or height or color. People thought Michael Jackson was great, but he never thought he was. He thought his nose failed him terribly. So because they're not liberated from thinking they are the aggregates, Buddha is completely liberated from aggregate. That's why his youthful body, he didn't mind exposing to the hunger and thirst, sitting in the middle of the open air for 6 years, because he never have attachment to them. All our suffering comes from thinking body is me, this mine, and even though we have relative truth in that, but we don't even question its relative. We think that's the ultimate. But Buddha has no such. He's completely and utterly liberated from the aggregates. Aggregates means that form aggregate, feeling aggregate, volition aggregate, perception aggregate, and consciousness aggregate. And that is then elaborated. He is not possessed with constituents. The constituents are 18. The 6 are sense organ constituents. The sense organ means eye organ, ear organ, nose organ, so on, all to the mental organ. And then eye consciousness, ear consciousness. So those are 6 consciousness. And then, so the third is the object, sense object. Sense object is form, sight, smell, taste, touch, and objects and thought. So this 18, he's not possessed. He's not possessed, meaning if we see something, we think that's true. But he's not possessed by the sight. He sees forms as merely labeled and merely contrived, and not as truly existing itself. We think we see a form, we think the form truly exists, and then because we see it, we think it's truly existing. So we are possessed by our spirits. People say, I saw that, I heard that. They're seized by their own apprehension, which is incorrect. So Buddha is not possessed by any of his seeings, because he doesn't see anything that really truly exists. He sees illusion. He sees a relative reality, but he doesn't see anything that really exists, because he knows it nothing exists independently. He doesn't see you and me, I suppose. We have to ask him. He probably see just thin air. He saw nobody. Some people touch the elephant, the nail, the tail, and then they ask, what's the elephant like? Because they are all blind. If you ask all the room full of blind people, touch the elephant, everybody touches different parts of the elephant, they think that's the elephant. And then some people touch the tail, they think that's the elephant. The elephant is thin and long. And some people touch the legs, some people touch the trunk. Nobody knows actually what a form is, but yet they think the elephant is the tail. Those who touch the tail, But Buddha sees the tail, he sees no elephant in the tail, let alone tail in the tail. Even tail is made out of skin and hair and some bones and whatever, I don't know, tendons, getting thinner and thinner, and more cartilages, and then bones in the tail. What do you think there is in the tail? Those of you who have ox tail soup can tell me. Are you drinking ox or ox tail? If you think you're drinking ox, I don't think you will drink it. When you think it's a soup, you will drink it. So Buddha will never order an ox tail soup, I tell you that. Because he will accept whatever people offer falls into his bowl. So because he's not possessed with taste, he's not possessed with shape or things. He doesn't ask, I want this, I don't want this. He just accepts whatever it is, because he doesn't even need it, because he accepts it for the, So therefore, when we say constituents, the eye constituents is a sense organ and sense consciousness, because we could have an eye organ, but we can have no eye consciousness, because people have beautiful eyes, but they cannot see it. So that's eye organ minus the eye consciousness. Eye consciousness is not the mind, mental consciousness, eye consciousness wired. Something is not connected, not connected. Eye organ is there, but it is not, hasn't got visual consciousness. It's got mental consciousness, don't get me wrong. He knows he can't see, so that is mental consciousness. But he can't see, so that's the absence of the visual consciousness, not absence of the eye organ. Eye organ is there, So eye organ is one, eye conscious another, and then the object is a form is another. These three, object, subject, and consciousness, making 3 sets of 6 is called 18 constituents. He's not possessed with constituents. He never say, I saw it. Buddha never grasped to things what he saw. he sees them as emptiness from an ultimate point of view. And relatively, he can see whatever he need to say, I saw. So he will be very, very diplomatic, you know. And if he also saw a horse, he will also say, yes, it's a horse. But he whispered to himself, of course it's not a horse, but I agree with them. It's just a horse. You know, I mean, yeah. Some people say he's a man, but he says he's not a man. He says, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. And most people say, oh gosh, he is a man, but he says he's a woman. You know, we have those things. Even relatively, people who are biologically men, but he doesn't really, he just say, he intrudes in the feminine circle, he says he's a woman. But Buddha, no, they're not, both of them are nothing. So one doesn't get intruded. So Buddha is not possessed by constituents of organs, or little nipples. Your maleness is just a nipple size. I was told some people don't even have nipple size. It completely disappeared. Yeah. There's not much there.
I've got a few extra nipples.
You got a few extra nipples. So Buddha is not going to call people or things this or that as we do, you know. Oh, he's our people. Oh, look, we speak the same language. We support the same club. Buddha is not caught up in any of these constituents: form, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. So talking to him, he's completely liberated. So he's liberated. His sense fields are restrained. Yeah. His sense fields are restrained. This is so his sense fields means his sense organs. Fields is form. So when he sees a form, he's restrained eye organ and mental consciousness about it to not see the object as something alluring. His senses are restrained enough to be not allured by the sense objects, because he thinks it's his own desire that makes the object beautiful. There's nothing inherently beautiful in the object. So that's even our conventional saying, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's a really sloppy saying, really. You know, beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. I mean, then the blind should also see, you know. So beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. Now, what if he doesn't have a consciousness? So his senses fields are completely controlled, restrained, to the extent of not engaging, not operatively lured, or you know, when people who hasn't got the sense restrained, their eyes always looking, can't stop looking. Some of the gods, they get satisfied by looking. We call in Australia window shopping. 3 hours window shopping, came home with an empty bag. It's called, they're not sense restrained. They took cab to go there, took cab to come there. They spent 3 hours in the mall. And you know why? Because they have people who create the illusions. And they were doing those, they this display cabinets. They're just making them look alike. The inside is all different things, you know. So Buddha is totally liberated from being lured by a sense object, because he has completely controlled his senses. So we are all confused by cosmetics. We are all lured by cosmetics, whether it's a cosmetic to look at, cosmetic to smell, or whatever. We all lured by that. And Buddha does see what's inside. Buddha can see what's inside. He can see the pus and pus and blood and 36 impurity bag of fluid with very good skin, 7-layered skin, just not preventing them oozing. Buddha could see that, so he's not attached to the oozing bag with 2 feet. It's amazing. When you go in the city, you can see A lot of people don't go there because they're just so unfit. Others go very fit, it looks like. Do you get allured by the sight or smell or taste and touch? We do. Wow, people go and pay to watch the catwalks wearing weird clothing. They say, wow, what the hell are you talking about? You can put that cloth on a piece of tree, put it on a tree. You wouldn't say, wow. Are you talking about the cloth or the one who's wearing it? So Buddha's senses are restrained from thinking it's there truly existing. He sees these all just little tricks that create. So his mind is completely controlled. So that concludes the resultant suffering. Buddha is completely liberated from the resultant suffering. And now we go to Buddha is also free from the causal truth of suffering, of origin. Because you cannot be liberated from the result unless you stop the cause. And now this is captivated by the next four statements. They're very profound. Every time I look at this commentary, oh God, only Mipam can write this commentary. He's so amazing to deciphering the whole sutra in such consistent structure. He subtitles them, he divides them, he sequences them in immaculate. I mean, he was Manjushri. He's regarded as Manjushri, Mipam, Jumipam. There are other commentaries too, but not that I have had chance to look all of them, but all the Indian commentaries are much briefer, but briefer. But Mipam had the advantage of learning all the Indian commentaries, all the Tibetan, and then he looked from his own vision, and then he just spells this out. And now he says, all the knots are completely cut. Now, these four statements are very pertinent Buddhist terminology. Knots, torment, craving, river. These are all names of delusions. Yeah? How? Because sufferings are caused by delusions. So the delusions are analogously talked about as knots. What does this knot means? The knot refers to kind of dead knot. If you put a rope, a dead knot, you cannot untie it. It's so difficult to and untie it. Most people's grasping, fixation, and the views about craving about things is like tight knot. They're all tied up in their views, and they're not willing to unloose it. They're not willing to let go of it. It's not loosenable. That knot could not be loosenable. People have so tight, rigid views about things, opinions, and they do not know that is the cause of their suffering, their fixation, their addictions, their views, their political views, their doctrinal views. They are completely knotted in them. So here we are talking about all the knots are completely cut. Buddha has completely loosened all the knots of the wrong views. So that's the knots of craving. Knots of craving. He doesn't have any craving. He doesn't have any craving, and that brings him to be knotted in the three realms of existence. Because no matter how tight a knot it is, he has totally loosened them all by the what has cut the knot loose? By his emptiness discerning wisdom, sharpness of the wisdom, cut the wisdom, sword of the wisdom, cut the knot loose. And because of that, he is totally liberated. So when we cut, the completely cut knot is the knot has to be cut by sharp knife, isn't it? You have to have a knife to know that you have a knot. First you have to see the knot, then you have to have a knife to cut with it. But most people don't know they even have knot. They think it's external people who did this to me. Because you do this to me, I will not budge. They don't realize it's their craving, their addiction, their attachment. They think it's the other person who did it. They don't realize they don't. They want the other to be punished. They don't want to cut their knot. They are deeply knotted by their own craving. So all the knots are completely cut. All the knots are not just physical, verbal, mental, and habitual. There are many. And then cognitive knots, grasping to me, grasping to I, and that view is correct. And this kind of not. Lots of people suffering. And then he's completely liberated from extreme torment. So this extreme torment is people who are tormented, yeah, who are tormented by their own extreme views, yeah. So extreme suffering, that they are excruciatingly suffering by the wrong views. So this is extreme. The torment is ignorance. So the example of ignorance. The not is example of craving. And the third one is liberated from the craving. Yeah, liberated from craving. Liberated from the craving is just like one who's thirsty, always wants something to drink, and he can't see anything but what he wants. He doesn't care, like KFC. I don't care, you know. It's so lovely, you know. I don't care. Yeah, they're promoting craving. They should be punished, you know. Definitely. I think advertising companies, it causes a lot of the addictions. And they're giving free TV. So that you can watch them. And you can pay in 24 months time. In the meantime, you just get addicted to watch this and buy all the KFC.
One of the friends who's expanded a lot, he lives down the road from KFC, and he can smell it. It's like very obese.
And yeah, and he has crossed over the river. Now this is the Buddha has ordinary sentient beings are drowned in their craving, you know, drowned in the river of the craving. They're just suffocating. And they're not wearing any life jacket or anything. They're completely drowned in the river, and they could not get over to cross the other side or return back. They are completely drowned in the craving. This is talking about addictions, you know. People are just bouts of craving, and they go and do it, spend all the money they took hours and days to earn, spend it within a second. And this is also gambling. And gambling is, you know, people are drowned in the river of gambling. You know, they think they can win. They are losing more than they're gaining, and they just don't know what is different with losing and winning. They want to win, but they're losing most of the time, and they still couldn't see it. They're still intoxicated because they don't know. Because when you're in the drowning water, you wouldn't know whether you're alive or dead. You wouldn't tell. You don't know which is water and which is you. You have become watered. You have become completely watered. Water went into your mouth, and then you finish. You are no different from the water. Like, people do not know their addictions. And the Buddha is completely free of those being danger of drowned in the river of craving. Because sentient beings are mainly drowned in the river of craving. They do not know how to swim. They have been drowned, and you couldn't even see their body. So these four are causal, the true origin of suffering. True origin of suffering. So Buddha is liberated from these four causes with the resultant suffering. So all our suffering comes from these four causes. And so in this way, Buddha is, this is the renunciation component of the qualities. Now we come to the realization component. Renunciation is renunciation of faults and suffering and their causes. The realization are the qualities and the liberations. So these are divided into the nature of the realization. What's the nature of realization? What's the quality of realization? What's the function of the realization? So good. So of these three, so when we come to these three, the nature, and the nature has two parts: vast nature of the realization, vast nature of realization, which is profound. The nature of realization that is vast is he's perfected in all the wisdoms. So this refers to the the wisdoms that we were talking about, whether it's five, nature of the wisdom is five, the term in terms of time, nature is of past, present, and future. The wisdom of Buddha that knows the nature of all the 21 characteristics of phenomena. He knows the nature of all things. His knowledge is so vast in all the wisdoms. Then the second is that his knowledge and his wisdom is, his realization is profound. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagwan, who arise in the past, present, future. So Buddha's wisdom is not second to other Buddhas. His wisdom is same as the past Buddhas. His wisdom is same as future Buddhas. His wisdom of the present Buddha. So therefore, Buddha's quality is very profound. So you don't have to wait for future Buddha to teach what the Buddha and Buddha didn't teach, you know. So Buddha's wisdom is profound. So he abides in that very wisdom that is the domain of the wisdom of all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Because the past, present, future Buddhas do not see any difference between samsara and nirvana. And then, because they don't see samsara and nirvana, sentient beings wanted to attain nirvana by renouncing samsara, but Buddhas do not see any difference between samsara and nirvana, because there is no samsara that exists samsara from its point of view, nor is nirvana from its point of view. So the Buddha always dwells in this compassion, great compassion towards the sentient beings who are struggling to escape from one and escape to another, you know. So Buddhas do not see samsara at all, no nirvana at all. It's only in the ordinary beings think the samsara should be abandoned and nirvana should be achieved. Buddha has this ability to the wisdom. The wisdom of Buddha is so profound. He abides in the wisdom, in that level, that level. And so the qualities of Buddha, he does not abide in nirvana. He himself does not abide in nirvana. Yeah, he does not abide in nirvana. If Buddha abide in nirvana, it is called nirvana of cessation. Then the Buddha would have no benefit to us. So that's Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas go attain nirvana, to go to nirvana. Buddha does not abide in the nirvana. Buddha is Mahaparinirvana. Mahaparinirvana means he does not abide in the nirvana of cessation, but he remain in the Dharmakaya, and he therefore radiate his manifestation incessantly through Rupakaya. So that's why the vastness of the Buddha's realization, realization is so universal, universal indeed. He abides in ultimate perfection. So means Buddha is not some seeking to achieve somewhere. He has already achieved the perfect realization, the ultimate perfection. The function of he dwells in the stage where he sees all sentient beings. So Buddha is the one who knows the plight of all sentient beings. So the function of Buddha is that these very teachings of the Buddha that we have is his knowledge of the plight of sentient beings. Because he sees he dwells on the stage, which is perfect Buddhahood, Samyak Sambuddha, where he sees all sentient beings, and then he radiates his Rupakaya manifestation, is Sambhogaya in the Akanishta realm, Nirmanakaya in Samsara, for the sentient beings who don't know the difference, and who are struggling in Samsara and do not have any ability to get out themselves. So he therefore abides somewhere that he has a very vantage point from where his reach is big, reach. He could, his domain, his range is perfect. His range is everywhere. So Buddha is not staying in a location. Like the sun is not shining from Japan at all. If sun is shining from Japan, it will be really limited. We call Japan land of the rising of the sun. It's ridiculous. When you go to Japan, there's no sun there. The sun is shining from wherever it's shining from, everybody, everywhere. There's only one place the sun shines from. It's not rising from Japan at all. And then the Japanese will be burned for years ago. No, so like the Buddha is dwelling in not some fixed location in Bodh Gaya or in one place. Buddha could see the plight of all sentient beings. There is no time it's too wet or too dark or too cloudy. Buddha couldn't see. He's not conditioned by any of that. Buddha is omniscient. So Buddha can see the plight of all sentient beings. So that's why we don't understand sentient beings, each other, because we have no capacity. But only the Buddha knows the plight of all sentient beings. And then it concludes that all these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavan. So all these above mentioned, what we have talked about, qualities of brief qualities, extensive qualities, and how he manifests, how he benefits wisdom point of view, how he benefits from speech, how he benefits through his physical activities, and through the dispensation of his renunciation, through the acquisition of his qualities, how the Buddha benefits. All the above mentioned qualities, what we have just mentioned, is the greatness of the these are the great virtues, perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavan. So one who is able to remember this or hear even small part of this, so a person who Buddhists should recite this every sutra, every part of their morning prayer. In the monastery they do that. Some of the monasteries anyway, they always when they start morning prayer, they chant this first. And chanting may go for 2 hours, but always chant this one first before they even do the other prayers. So whether it's Klintara Puja or whatever it is, so they always do this. So if one did make a habit of reciting this every day, then you will remember all of these things. When you remember all of these things, it will bring true joy to you. Your day will be made different by this, because you're renewing refuge in the Buddha, and Dharma, and Sangha, and because if you care to remember the greatness of all the qualities of Buddha, greatness, the secretness of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, and hence from now on you would treat the Buddha images, however simple, made from fiberglass or brass or clay or whatever, you will always honor them as a reminder for you to remember and not forget these qualities. Put an elevated place, bring some flowers, or put some very nice objects, maybe some edibles, like the traditional Buddhists, and never leave a Buddha image in a no offering. They always bring fresh fruits, fresh things, and change the things as if you have a very special guest. They do that because it's not just to make things look good. They actually see the Buddha images as if they actually remembering the qualities of Buddha, and they bow down there with great care. When you do that practice regularly, then it will slowly, the qualities of Buddha is will bring true joy to those long with faith. Yeah. Then they keep their Buddha images, have sacred scriptures, stupas, their place of meditation, prayer. You don't have to go necessarily to a temple if that's not accessible. Create your own space. Make those objects dusted, washed, cleaned, painted, and change the new cases or look at very nice. And that it not only brings ambience to your practice, but also that it means something special for you, because it brings the goodness in you out, and you also know how to loosen some of the knots. As a result of having refuge in the Triple Gem, we're also starting to lose some of the grip of craving, grip of wrong views. Oh, this view that I have about my such and such is so devastating. This is terrible. This is poison. I'm holding this wrong view regarding him because I'm so unwilling to let go of my wrong views. So by remembering the qualities of Buddha, then it will enable us starting to find a knife to cut the knots. The first hardest knot, then the second, then the third, and then even as a 9 knot, it will all be loosened. So the more you practice through meditation and maybe some kind of chore ritual you do around the Buddha images, and like this blessed Buddha image, we know Vidu got it all the way from so many years, kept it as a centerpiece of the center. And so keeping these offerings regularly and practicing is very important, very, very important. If people want to really practice Buddhism as a spiritual tradition, if people want to practice Buddhism as a happiness or something like that, forget it. You do not need pretty Buddha faces. Buddha images are objects of worship and true belief, true respect. And we should bow down, we should surrender our karma, relinquish our bad habits, and drop the laziness, do prostration, not just 1 or 2 or 3, but do hundreds, thousands. If you practice, you will lose your karmic weight, emotional baggage, as well as many things, because it helps you to loosen the knots, so to speak. It changes us, it tames us. He's the charioteer who tames the sentient beings. We have to see how we are doing the taming, because we need to, if you remember the qualities of Buddha, you will definitely upkeep your statues in your home a little bit much more care than you previously are doing. Quite a lot of people keep a little bit, and then you can see that their shrines are neglected. It's so sad because people didn't know the significance. They think it's an idol. They think it's some funny idol worship practice. They're not. It's not. The symbols are always worshipped. And the question is how many, whether it's a simple cross or a Buddha image. They're all worshiping some symbols. And the Buddha image is not a symbol of Buddha. Buddha image is Buddha. Buddha image is, when you consecrate the Buddha image, we bring the wisdom being. We ask Buddha's wisdom being to reside in there until all sentient beings gain liberation, until whole world dissolves through the destruction by 4 elements. Please remain here for the benefit of the people, land, wildlife, everywhere. So quite a lot of the installation of huge Buddha images. Never mind some are small, but they usually always being big Buddha images to bless the whole land and so on. Because it remembers people, that's Buddha. And then those who have learned and hear the qualities of Buddha gem, of course, have every reason. It's just there for meditating just in front of Buddha. If you don't need other object, you just think of the Buddha and think of his qualities, and then reboot your own understanding of it and sit in meditation. So that concludes the recollection of the qualities of the first gem, that gem of the Buddha. So we're going to conclude here shortly. I can see if you. No oxtail soup for me, some said. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for your participation. We are continuing, of course, this teaching on the recollecting of the sutra of the qualities of the gem, Buddha Dharma gem, Sangha gem, this afternoon as well. Thank you very much. So have a good afternoon. Erenda Mahayana Dije whatever may hope because the levels behold the Mahayana Dije courage manjuje ne as a man zambo Asha de ge o de mere me de zelem bo de jeda tebe ve erhana yeraza ver has been bo merenger wele da de generation. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, does anyone know where to find the links for this afternoon?